Hey, Brent Pourciau, TopVelocity.net. The other day I did a video on the anatomy of the drive leg for, say, a high velocity pitcher. We're going to get more focused today. We're going to focus in on the foot and talk about the foot here. And when we talk about the foot as the foundation, it's all very important that each joint is working together. So the point is we're going to go over the importance of having a really strong, stable foot to support the kinetic chain and support the drive leg. But if you have a really weak and tight hip, it's going to make it very, very difficult for even a strong foot to function correctly. So in the kinetic chain, you really have to have each joint has to be working together. They all have to be equally strong, supporting one another, or you're going to not have an efficient, optimal system here. So, but like I said, let's focus in on the foot. The last video, if you haven't seen it, we focused in more on the hip. And understand all those things we talked about the hip are very important to what the foot's going to try to do. So let's look at the foot. And then this is where things can go wrong. If we look at the foot here, and I'm going to throw shout out to Sean Kitzman, who really has a high level understanding of the foot. If you want more information on getting really detailed into the foot and its mechanics and functions and movement, reach out to Sean Kitzman. I'll try to link his profile below. But with the foot, a really important part would be the talus. That's the bone right under the tibia here. And it kind of acts as like a spinal joint. Think of a spinal joint and its ability to pivot and move. It can't move like a spinal joint, but it kind of serves the same purpose to where if it goes one way, the whole system's going to go that way. So it really has to be the focal point or the axis point of stability in the foot. If we can stabilize it, we can create we have a stable foundation for the leg to rest into. So obviously, ideally with the foot, the arch of the foot is important because we know arches are very, very strong structures. That's why bridges are built in arch architecture. So forming the arch in the foot is very, very important, and it also creates a better foundation for the talus. So how do you form a good arch in the foot? That's just getting a strong foot. That's doing foot exercises. You can go into like walking on your toes, or walking on your heels, walking on the side of your foot. Like just get strong at walking all around your foot. Then squatting and loading into the foot is going to help, and then all the plyometric work, the jumping and exploding, really is going to take it to another level. And you're really going to start to form a strong arch in your foot. And that's where we want to be. So how do we get to a good arch? Because if we get a good arch, now we have a good foundation here. And remember, the pitcher is sitting on the drive leg for 3/4 of the delivery. So the majority of your delivery, you're just resting on this one foot. So it's holding a ton of weight. So establishing the arch is going to not just be important for you being able to sit on that foot and create force, but it's going to allow the kinetic chain to work better. Because if I'm in the arch, the talus will be more externally rotated, then that will allow the femur to stay more the tibia to stay more externally rotated, and then the femur. And this is where it all can go wrong. So if you're a flat-footed person, if you don't have much of an arc in your foot, you're a weak lower half person, your knees always want to buckle on you, it's in the foot. Your foot's flat-footed, and look what happens. Just look at the tibia. When I push the middle of the foot down to the ground, look where my talus goes. It starts to inwardly rotate, and then look where the tibia goes. And now look where the knee's going to be, and now look where the hip. Now, obviously, that's a collapsing leg. We talked about the other day how that's going to disrupt the kinetic chain. That's going to collapse the only leg on the ground the majority of the delivery. That's creating a lot of your power, your propulsion energy going forward. So now if you have that flat foot, you're already starting in a position of poor stability where you're going to be unable to really maximize forces through your kinetic chain. But how the hips relate to that, if I had a really tight hip, like we talked about the other day, forcing the femur down, it doesn't matter how strong my foot is. I'll never be able to get it into a more externally rotated position where I can really sit into my arch. Because that's typically where we find the arch, is when we're more externally rotated, supinated into that foot. We'll get that arch foundation in there, and then the taluses has a good stable foundation, and then everything can build on top of that. So just understand, if you're trying to fix all this and you got your hips mobile and you understand how to keep your femur in torsion, but your talus is turned in and your foot is flat, that's going to be a big problem for you. So working in your foot, building the arch in your foot, keeping your talus, and watch your talus. I mean, you'll see people walk with the middle of the foot down, the talus internally rotated, and they're literally like slapping their feet like flippers. You really want to get the torsion in the system. You want to turn the femur out, the tibia out, the femur out. Feel the arch form where the weight on your foot is curving to the outside of your foot. The talus is up and stable and neutral position, and you feel strong and explosive there. That's why when you go into your strengthening, it can't just be being able to hold that position. That's where your plyometrics. Not only when you get into this position with your plyometric jumps, you got to be able to explode out of those positions, because that's what's going to happen on the mount. Once we create that stability like we have here, and I'm holding this stability in the foot. I'm just keeping the arch in the foot. I'm keeping the talus up, and look what it's doing to the whole thing. Look when I let it collapse. When I let it collapse, look what happens to the whole thing. Same thing's going to happen pitching. Flat-footed guys are going to be pitching like that. Strong-footed, good arches in the foot, they're going to be pitching like this, and they're going to be able to explode and drive through those positions, which is going to be so critical in pushing energy into the kinetic chain. So really start to focus in on your foot, guys. That's the point of this, is try to build your arc. Try to get that arc in your foot. Focus on your talus, that top bone under the tibia. Don't let that turn inward. Get that more externally rotated, sitting more on pushing more towards the outside part of your foot. Feel when you walk, feel you can roll to the outside foot, to your toe, heel, roll to your outside foot of your toe, and start to feel the arc in your foot, because the better you get at creating that arc, the stability, and getting the talus in that more stable position, you're going to be able to control the drive leg, propel the drive leg, and really, really master your kinetic chain better. So I hope that helps. Focusing more on this, I'll move on to the front leg in the next video.